Hi there, my name's Katie Neves, and I've got some big news for you. It's hot off the press, it's happening right now. So, a transgender woman in the UK is about to sue the Labour Party for discrimination. And that transgender woman is a very good friend of mine called Steph Richards. Now, Steph is with me now. Hi, Steph.
Hi, Katie.
Thanks very much for coming along. So, I would like to point out that most people will know you as the founder and CEO of Translucent, but you have actually had to just step down as being the CEO, haven't you?
Yeah, so I stepped down on Saturday, a couple of days ago. Um, the bottom line is, if you're suing the Labour Party, and you're CEO of an organisation that talks to government, there's a real conflict of interest there. Um,
Absolutely.
so in consequence, I had to make a decision whether to stay as CEO, or to unfortunately resign. But that said, Translucent is going to be in incredible hands because we've got a really, really strong team at Translucent, including Robin Moira Wright, Finn Mackay, um, and of course Professor Stephen Whittle-OBE, a trans icon from the Press for Change days,
Yeah.
and indeed Deborah Diamond. So it's uh, Deborah's a former NHS psychologist, doctor.
She's
Um,
incredible.
she is incredible, and she was actually when I was CEO. Deborah was my director of advocacy, my absolute right hand go-to person. So Translucent are incredible hands with Stephen and Deborah. I would argue, actually a stronger position than when I was CEO because frankly they're both better than me.
Yeah.
So there's no fear on
Yeah.
in
But
regards to Translucent.
but it's important to point out that this legal action has got nothing to do with Translucent. This is you personally taking them to court.
Absolutely. I've been in dispute from the Labour Party on a personal basis since December
Okay.
of last year.
So let's look at the background to this. So this all started really from the Supreme Court ruling on the 16th of April last year, didn't it? So it's nearly a year on.
Exactly. Um, so we had that terrible judgment, which unfortunately has been, well, I mean, what trans people obviously had a really difficult life before then. It's made it twice as bad. Um, and in consequence, we've seen, you know, trans women not being able to get awards in various categories. We've seen trans women being thrown out of the Girl Guides. We're seeing, and trans girls, of course. Um, Trans women being thrown out of the WI. Some of those members have been members for 40 odd years. The Labour Party also made the decision in the summer of last year that you couldn't be a women's officer, you couldn't be um, on an all-women shortlist or chair of a branch. And they were all positions, or no, not, or some of those were positions that I'd previously held in the Labour Party. So I've been on an all-women shortlist, picked by a panel from outside my CLP. In the past, I've been a delegate to Women's Conference in the past, and I was actually elected Women's Officer for 3 years running, elected by members of my CLP.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but there was no women's conference last year. Labour cancelled it on the basis of I don't think they knew how to handle the Supreme Court judgment. They were concerned about protests. Of course, Labour's not very popular, and even less popular with the left and the people who's trans inclusive.
Sure.
So they cancelled the conference last year, but on the 2nd of December, it was decided that trans women would not be allowed to be delegates to the women's conference. You could go to the fringe events. Well, I've been to as a delegate to the women's conference, and it's not good. Um, and ultimately, if you're a feminist like myself, you want to be a delegate and you want to be on the voting and being able to give speeches. So effectively, I was excluded, and other trans women, trans counselors, trans women counselors. It's only three of them. Um, So I was really upset. I complained to the Labour Party in December. I was immediately brushed off. Um, I then made other complaints. I can't say too much because it'd be um, legal privilege, but I can say I've been in dispute with the Labour Party for months, and they've been totally intransigent. They wouldn't even meet me. Um, so we are now going legal.
Yeah. And legal costs are, they're not cheap, are they? It's expensive.
They're not.
Um,
Um, Initially, I'm looking to raise £25,000 to kick off this case.
so you're partly funding it yourself, and you've got a
Yeah,
crowdfunder, haven't you?
yeah. I've taken out some equity in my house uh,
Wow.
to start it off. I'm already tens of thousands of pounds in on my case.
Yeah.
Um, so ultimately, this is the first big test against for Women Scotland. I would encourage other people to perhaps look at taking on Girl Guiding, or indeed the WI,
Yep.
um, where trans people being excluded. We do have the protected characteristic of gender reassignment.
And that's really
Uh,
important. That's really important. And that's something that the judge in the Supreme Court ruling was emphasized, that
yeah,
trans people are still
still,
protected.
still protected.
It's gender
Um,
reassignment is still a
yeah,
protected
yeah. When the
characteristic.
Gender Recognition Act came out in 2004, it did have particular exclusions, options for exclusions. Um, and they were mainly around single-sex spaces where service providers could say going to be trans exclusionary, or sports where they could turn around and say no, a trans woman can't go to the Olympics in athletics, for example.
And
Uh,
should point out, although you were assigned male at birth, you are post-op and you do have a gender recognition certificate, so your new birth certificate does say female on it.
yes, it does.
Yeah.
I had surgery on the 2nd of July 2019. I've got a gender recognition certificate. I have a new
Yep.
birth certificate.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So, not that you need those things for the for the
No,
for the Equality Act 2010, but it all adds to the case, doesn't it?
indeed. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
what we're going to do, I'm going to put in the notes to this video and in the comments, I'm going to put a link to your crowdfunder. And I think you initially need £25,000 to get this case started. I mean, who knows what you'll need eventually, but you
Yeah.
need that amount to begin with.
That's right. It's important that we start to stand up against gender critical lawfare. We know that a particular trans hostile organization has been flooding charities, organizations,
Yeah.
putting them under pressure to ban trans people, trans women in particular. Um, and frankly, they've got to be stopped, and
Yeah.
we've got to stand up against this judgment. And if it takes getting to Strasbourg in years to come, then so be it. That's my new life.
Yeah, well, good luck with it, Steph. And I mean, I must say, who better to to take it to court than you? So I really do wish you the best of luck with it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Steph.